Doing the W as usual RL has been a BTCH, so sorry about unwanted lie long times between postings. I will try to be better in the future. Doing the W no, this is not a post about politics. Not even because it started over in Beans Bar, where some folks happened to ask a few beginner questions and get me launched on a how to write kick. Someone said they were having trouble plotting, and I pointed out if we were going into that I'd do it on my blog, where a lot more people will get the benefit of it. So here we are. When I started out in writing, an agent who rejected me said he was rejecting me because I couldn't plot, and that couldn't be taught. Neither of these was precisely true. It wasn't that I couldn't plot, but rather that I could neither foreshadow nor abstain from throwing in so many subplots that the book could better be described as soup, or to quote my friend Kevin Anderson, thoroughly kitchen sinked. When you throw in everything in the kitchen sink. It would be many years and a very patient friend, thank you Dave Freer, to make me realize that the foreshadowing was part of what helped people see the plot and enjoy it. As for knowing how to plot and its being or not capable of being taught, well, it's more complex than that. To be able to plot effectively you need three things. 1. Common sense. Look, unless you're writing a very special kind of novel indeed, when someone drops a plate in the kitchen, it doesn't turn into a dragon on the way down. And if it does, we want it foreshadowed somehow, so we know it's a very special kind of novel indeed. Which brings us to number 2. Your common sense must be grounded on 2. Knowledge of the world, real or imaginary. If you're writing in this universe or any semblance of this universe, you must know something about it. Like, if your world is predominantly rural, agricultural products will be affordable, but anything manufactured will cost you. I know this is a hard concept for anyone who grew up in America, a country that practically came into being with industrialization. But go to Walmart. Look at any piece of furniture. If your novel is set pre-1880s, multiply what everything would cost by 1,000. And pay attention to where your people are getting the money goods. And if you have a world where a soup plate can become a dragon, have some sort of explanation, particularly of why every soup plate doesn't become a dragon. And give us some inkling we're not in Kansas. 3. Some understanding of how your reader feels. This is where it helps to have read the books in the genre you're trying to target. Say you start your Mill SF with your main hero putting on his pink tutu. Unless it's a black ops in a ballet performance for transvestites, you just lost your audience. Another good thing is avoiding unnecessary ick factor. How do you know they're unnecessary? Well, unless the fill-in-the-blank defecation scene, detailed birth scene, sex scene with what goes where, rotting corpse scene, truly bloody scene, other gross-out scene, is absolutely necessary to the plot, leave it out. And if you must put it in, sometimes you have to do it with exactly the impact you want and no more. Also, though I'll go into this in more detail later, beware annoying characters. A character who comes on stage crying, laughing, or otherwise being a pain will turn off the reader. Picture the character as a door toot or salesman. He can be interestingly sad or concerned, but if you have him overreact or act nuts, your reader will shut that door. Also, sad to say, your reader tends to attach to the first character on screen. I call this the duckling factor. Keep that in mind. For the rest, just think about what would turn you off on as a reader. If you haven't read in the past, ask for a reading list and you shall receive. I have some of the most literate readers in creation. Okay, so you've checked and you are indeed possessed of 1, 2 and 3, and your character isn't a screaming door-to-door evangelist who wears a duck on his head. Good. So you think you're all set. Right. Not precisely. It is possible to have all of the above and still go badly, seriously wrong. One of the ways you can go very wrong, and I hear it's very common, though it's not something that ever afflicted me personally, is starting your story 40 pages before it starts. So you have your interesting character and your fascinating world noodling around in search of a plot. Or you are young and most of your novels are Mary Sue, character goes in and fixes everyone's problems, and everything comes up roses for him, her. And midway through the novel, all your readers have succumbed to sleep, possibly a coma. Or you have a vague idea that you're supposed to drag your characters through hell and high water, because this will keep it interesting, and you do just that. I did this for years. You think you survived the rodents of unusual size. Cry the sudden fires. My friend Kate Polk, hi Kate, calls this plotting through dropping of walls. Every time your character crawls up on hands and knees, you drop another wall on him. Unless your readers are unusually sadistic, they get tired of this too. Of course, some readers are unusually sadistic, and you might get published at this stage. So, you're not supposed to baby your character and make everything come up roses, you're not supposed to torture him, her, and you're not supposed to just write stuff about him, her noodling around. At this point I can hear you scream and pull your hair. Stop that. Combovers are unsightly. Have you looked at Donald Trump? Right. So, be patient and I'll explain. You're supposed to both torture and reward your character, but you're supposed to do it in a way that feels right and deserved and logical to the reader. Dave tells me we monkeykind have a built-in sense of fair play. The world doesn't always satisfy this, but our entertainment must. There are several ways of achieving this. The first and easiest is the W curve. Only, it's not exactly a W. More like those graphs on the walls of failing companies in movies, where you have peak, then valley, then lower peak, then deeper valley, etc. The valleys continuously descend, with each peak lower than the previous, because the general feel of the W curve is things get worse. Now, just things get worse can feel like walls dropping on the character, even with the little peaks in between. So you need one extra ingredient. The worst must come from the character's efforts to make things better. This often happens in real life. I'm going to try this with a really stupid example, because it's late and I want to go to bed. Let's say you have a girl dressing up for the prom. Bessie realizes her prom dress has a huge stain in the front. Initial precipitating problem. She is a very proud girl, character flaw, and doesn't want to ask mom for help. She takes dress to bathroom and tries to splash water on it. Attempt to solve. The dye starts running off valley. She dries it with the hair dryer and it stops dripping. Dye peak, but lower than before. When the stain is completely dry, she realizes it's much bigger than before. Deeper valley, so she thinks she'll pin some lace to it. Attempt to solve. She finds some lace peak, but lower. Her attempts to pin the lace onto a hole in the dress. Deeper valley. So, does this go on ad nauseum, till the line exits through the end of the paper. And then you just act on a happy ending, where Bessie's boyfriend shows up with a beautiful dress for her, right? Well, stuff like that does get published, but I don't recommend it. No, what you need here is a mirror moment where the ascent starts again. It's called mirror for two reasons. First, because characters sees character flaw clearly. Second, because it tends to mirror the other side. Only not really, since this tends to be towards the end of the book, like 1/3 from the end. Bessie confronts her character flaw and decides to go to mom for help. Attempt to solve and turn around. Mom doesn't know what the stain is, but she tells Bessie to talk to her grandmother. You shouldn't have someone solve the problem for your character. Anyway, small peak, as Bessie has hope. Bessie goes to talk to Grandma, who explains that a can of wax fell on the dress. She doesn't think the stain will be coming off. Valley. While Bessie is distraught, she realizes that she's looking at a picture of her grandmother in a dress from her debut. She remembers she saw the dress in the attic and asks Granny if she can wear it. Attempt to solve. Have Bessie triumph at the prom in her cool retro dress. One odd thing about this small plot, because it's very small and contrived, the black moment comes before the mirror. Normally it's the black moment that forces the character into the mirror. You'll find this out if you plot a more complex something with a more serious character flaw and consequences. Anyway, that's how you do the W. Are there other satisfying ways of plotting? Of course. And ways to give that plot more depth and feel of fulfillment too. But this one is a basic and is usually embedded in the other, more complex plots. Okay, now go and play with it. I'll try to post more on this soon. P.S. I really don't get a share of royalties on this, but those of you considering a how-to-write book could do worse than to read White Swain's books on how to write. I've given away dozens of these, and they usually help and never hurt. If you like this content and want to support this channel, the blog, and Sarah's continued writing, please like and subscribe. If you really enjoy the content, please come and join the fun at accordingtohoyt.com.